What's up, YouTube Gen X? So I got into a heated argument, but we're still friends. But this is just how we operate. She'll come into town and we'll have our heated arguments, but we like that. We don't leave with bad feelings, but we like to challenge each other. Because to be real with you, she is not really around other men that challenge her when it comes to her viewpoints, but I do. Now, we were talking about the whole idea of sacrifice, and she wanted to tell me that men don't have to make that much of a sacrifice when getting into a relationship. Women do. And I said, how so? Right? We got on age. And I said, once again, you can age with when you are in your prime, right? Because obviously women hit their prime when they're younger, men hit their prime when they're, older, right? So I said women are in their prime around 22, 23, let's say up to 25. She agreed with me. And then I said, how many women are ready to get married at that age? Not too many. They're going to tell you they're young, they want to explore, they want to figure out what they like, yada, yada, yada. Right? Then I said, ideally, how old do women want their husbands to be in terms of black women? The black women that she's talked to, how old do they want their potential husbands to be? And a lot of them said anywhere from 29 to 30, so still young, but not old. And then I got her to agree that that is when men hit their prime, right? Especially black men, when, you're finally into that sort of stable job or career. And she agreed. So I said, who's making the bigger sacrifice? The woman who's not in her prime, or the man that is in his prime, or even the men that are slightly before their prime? Who's making the sacrifice? It's not as if black women are saying we want our husbands to be 38, 39, 40. No. Even your older black women want that sort of man in his prime. So if you think about it, that's already a +1 for black men when it comes to marriage, right? We're the ones giving up our prime. This is why you may have black men that may have a commitment issue, because you as a black woman had a commitment issue at 23, 24, whatnot. So you had the issue because you were in your prime and you had a lot of options or whatnot, right? But for a lot of black men, it's the same thing. And I mean, Willie P talked about it. For a lot of men, they're just now at the point where they can do what they want to do financially, right? So it's a big sacrifice. So I got her there. Right, I got her there. She even admitted it. Right, I owned her on that one. But then we got into the whole sacrificing your educational, entrepreneurial, professional aspirations to get married or to be in that sort of relationship, right? And here's where we partially agree. So it was like a tie, right? She talked about how there's a lot of women that forego some of their professional, academic, or entrepreneurial interests to do the whole family thing, because the man is like, hey, I'm making good money, we can have a family, and we have to fit that traditional format. So the woman is like, okay, you're right, let me give up what I want to do to make the whole family thing work, right? It is better for you to go out and work a little bit harder so I can do what I have to do but make sure that I can hold down the home and the family and the children, right? So yeah, are there women that have to make that sacrifice? Of course. But I called her out. I told her, at what point in time is she lying in terms of acting as if she's giving up some sort of goal or aspiration so that she can hold it over your head, so that whenever there's an argument, she can say, I sacrificed going to med school or whatnot. And I told her, for me personally, if I'm dealing with the chick who's, let's say, 25, 26, and she's telling me about her career, ambition, or whatever it is, and she hasn't made any progress in that right direction, I don't count it, right? Don't tell me about your big dreams and you're 25, 26, and you haven't made any headway. Excuse me. Why do I feel that way? Well, typically speaking, she's probably graduated at 20, 21. Now she's 25, 26. So she's had anywhere from 4 to 5 years, maybe even 6 years to, take some time off, maybe travel, have some fun, maybe work a job, right? She's had that time. So at 25, 26, I'm expecting her to already have made progress towards that big goal, that big dream. Even now, we still got women talking about how they want to go to med school or law school or whatever. And it's like, you're 25, about to be 26 or whatnot. What steps have you taken? You hadn't even taken your LSAT. You hadn't even interviewed. So it's not even as if I'm going to get with you and you have to drop out of school, or you have to cut back what you already had started. You haven't started at all. And to be real with you, you've had enough time. So the way I look at it is, you're bullshitting. You're trying to hold on to some sort of goal or aspiration that you don't want to go through, only to use that as leverage, only for you to come through and say, yeah, I plan on doing X, Y, and Z, but to make it work, I'm going to give that up. And I called my homegirl out on that, right? And she even agreed. I got her there because she has some friends that do the same shit. They'll talk about what they want to do, and she's sitting back and it's like, how come you haven't already started? Right? How come you really haven't got the ball rolling, as if you're a man and you have more time? Right? You're already 25, 26, and whatever you want to do is going to take anywhere from like 3 to 5 years. So why are you waiting? So I told her, it's a tie. Yeah, if I'm dealing with a chick who's 23, 22, and, she's telling me, she wants to go to law school or med school or whatnot, but I'm like, yo, we can have this sort of family, so why don't you be a teacher or a nurse or whatever? I'll agree. That woman is making that sacrifice. Gotta give it to her. But if I'm dealing with a chick who's 25, 26, telling me, oh, I want to go to med school, law school, or whatever, and she has nothing done, no progress other than her word, there's no, look at this MCAT prep course I'm taking, or look at this LSAT prep course I'm in, or, I'm already enrolled, or I'm about to start my second year or whatnot. It's bullshit. She never really wanted to do it. She likes the whole idea of saying that that's what she wants to do. But in terms of actually getting down, she doesn't want to do it. Right? To be real with you, she's taking time because she's waiting for that dude to come through and say, hey, right, we don't need for you to make a whole bunch of money because I'm making the bulk of it. Right? Realistically, we only need you to be making around 40 or 50 or whatnot, and make sure that you can take care of the kids, so we can save money on child care or whatnot. And it is what it is. So you working is more so like a buffer. And that's what they want to hear. Right? But like I said, they still want to hold on to that piece of leverage. Well, I'm doing this, but I'm giving up my, future or career ambitions that I've had since a little girl. And I don't buy it. Right? I don't buy it at all. And as a man, that's something that you have to look out for. Right? You have to look out for it. And you have to look at her age. So if she's younger, yeah, I'll give her, yeah, you did make a sacrifice on my behalf, or for the sake of the family. But, she's in her mid, late 20s telling you that she's sacrificing something, call it out. Or, put a flag up. Because, to be real with you, why is there so much time? She's had enough time to explore, figure stuff out, do whatever she had to do. But the fact that she's made no progress, that should be a sign. You know, that should be a sign that she's trying to lie, right? And that she's trying to have some sort of leverage over you so that, you know, in the case of a fight or something down the road, she can pull it out, right? You know, and say, well, I did this, that, and the third. And you know the courts are going to, you know, side with her, right? So, you know, we ended that one on a tie. But I definitely got it when it came to the whole age and prime and who's not in their prime and who's in their prime. And it usually works out that the men are in their prime, right? And the women are not in their prime, right? So that's my vid. Y'all take it easy. God bless.